As Patroclus heals the wounds of Eurypylus, the Achaeans and Trojans continue to fight, now for the very rampart and trench that the Achaeans hastily constructed. And here we get an extremely interesting, beautiful, and sad passage from Homer. Homer at his best, perhaps. But hordes of men fought on, the Achaean and Trojan infantry going hand to hand. The Argive trench could not hold out much longer, nor could the rampart rearing overhead. The wide wall they raised to defend the ships, in the broad trench they drove around it all. They never gave the gods the splendid sacrifice the immortals craved, that the fortress might protect the fast ships and the bulking plunder heaped behind its shield. Defying the deathless gods, they built that wall, and so it stood there steadfast no long time, while Hector still lived and Achilles raged on, and the warlord Priam's citadel went unstormed. So long the Achaeans' rampart stood erect. But once the best of the Trojan captains fell, and many Achaeans died as well, while some survived, and Priam's high walls were stormed in the 10th year, and the Argives set sail for the native land they loved. Then, at last, Poseidon and Lord Apollo launched their plan to smash the rampart, flinging into it all the river's fury. All that flow from the crests of Ida down to breaking surf, the Rhesus and the Heptoporus, Caresis and the Rhodius, Grenicus and Icippus, and the shining god Scamander, and Simois tides where tons of oxhide shields and horn helmets tumbled deep in the river silt, and a race of men who seemed half god, half mortal. The channels of all those rivers, Apollo swung them round into one mouth, and 9 days hurled their flood against the wall, and Zeus came raining down, cloudburst powering cloudburst, the faster to wash that rampart out to open sea. The earth shaker himself, trident locked in his grip, led the way, rocking loose, sweeping up in his breakers all the bastion's strong supports of logs and stones the Achaeans prized in place with grueling labor. He made all smooth along the rip of the Hellespont, and piled the endless beaches deep in sand again, and once he had leveled the Argives' mighty wall, he turned the rivers flowing back in their beds again, where their fresh, clear tides had run since time began. Polydamas urges Hector and the Trojans to dismount from their chariots and storm the rampart on foot, because of the spiked trench. All the Trojans agree to the plan of Polydamas and form up into 5 battalions, all except Asius, who drives his chariot toward an open gate defended by Polypodus and Leontius, the Lapith spearmen. Homer attempts to describe the carnage. Now, squad on squad, gate to gate they fought, but how can I tell it all, sing it all like a god? The strain is far too great. Everywhere round the wall the surging inhuman blaze of war leapt up the rocks. The Argives, desperate, had no choice. They struggled now to defend the ships, and the gods were cast down in spirit, all who had urged the Argive soldiers on in battle. But the Lapiths still kept fighting, slaughtering on. Just as the soldiers following Polydamas and Hector are about to cross the trench, an omen appears to them. A fatal bird sign flashed before their eyes, an eagle flying high on the left across their front, and clutching a monstrous bloody serpent in both talons, still alive, still struggling. It had not lost its fight. Writhing back to strike, it fanged the chest of its captor right beside the throat, and agonized by the bites, the eagle flung it away to earth, dashed it down amidst the milling fighters, loosed a shriek, and the bird veered off along the gusting wind. Polydamas, standing beside Hector, says to him, Hector, you always seem to attack me in assembly, despite my good advice. Never right, is it, for a common man to speak against you, king? Never in open council, and God forbid in war. Our part is always to magnify your power. Well, once again I am bound to say what I think best. Stop the attack. Don't fight them at the ships. All will end as the omen says, I do believe, if the bird sign really came to us, the Trojans, just as our fighters tried to cross the trench, that eagle flying high on the left across our front, clutching this bloody serpent in both its talons, still alive. But he let the monster drop at once, before he could sweep it back to his own home. He never fed his nestlings in the end. Nor will we, even if we can breach the Argives' gates and wall, assaulting it in force, and the Argives give ground, back from the ships will come, back the way we went, but our battle order ruined, whole battalions of Trojans left behind and killed. The Achaeans will cut us down with bronze to save their fleet. So a knowing seer of the gods would read this omen, someone clear in his mind and skilled with signs, a man the Trojan armies would obey. And Hector snaps back at Polydamas. Enough, Polydamas, your pleading repels me now. You must have something better than this to say. But if you are serious, speaking from the heart, the gods themselves have blotted out your senses. You tell me to forget the plans of storming Zeus, all he promised me when he nodded in assent. You tell me to put my trust in birds, flying off on their long, wild wings. Never. I would never give them a glance, a second thought, whether they fly on the right toward the dawn and sunrise, or fly on the left toward the haze and coming dark. No, no. Put our trust in the will of mighty Zeus, king of the deathless gods and men who die. Bird signs! Fight for your country! That is the best, the only omen. You, why are you so afraid of war and slaughter? Even if all the rest of us drop and die around you, grappling for the ships, you'd run no risk of death. You lack the heart to last it out in combat. Coward! But if you hold back from the bloody foray here, or turn some other soldier back from battle, winning him over, you with your soft appeals, at one quick stroke, my spear will beat you down. You'll breathe your last. Sarpedon, a son of Zeus, leads his own men in an attack on the rampart and finds some success. And Sarpedon, clawing the rampart now with powerful hands, wrenched hard, and the whole wall came away, planks and all, and the rampart stood exposed, top defenses stripped. Sarpedon had made a gaping breach for hundreds. But the fighting comes to a standstill. Lycian stalwarts could not force the Achaeans back, breach their wall, and burst through to the ships, nor could Achaean spearmen hurl the Lycians back, clear of the rampart once they'd made their stand. Many were wounded, flesh ripped by the ruthless bronze whenever some fighter wheeled and bared his back, but many right through the buckler's hide itself. Everywhere, rocks, ramparts, breastworks swam with the blood of Trojans, Argives, both sides, but still the Trojans could not rout the Argives. Then, Homer tells us, Zeus grants the glory to Hector. The son of Cronos allows Hector to lift a boulder to throw at the gates of the rampart. Listen. As a shepherd lifts a ram's fleece with ease, plucks it up with a hand, no weight at all to him, so Hector raised the rock, bore it straight for the doors that blocked the gateway, powerful, thick-set, the pair towering up with two bars on the inside, crossing over each other, shot home with a bolt to pin them firm. planting his body right in front, legs spread wide, his weight in the blow to give it total impact. Hector hurled at the gates, full center, smashing the hinges left and right, and the boulder tore through, dropped with a crash, and both gates groaned and thundered. The door bars could not hold, the planking shattered up in a flying storm of splinters under the rock's force, and Hector burst through in glory, his face dark as the sudden rushing night, but he blazed on in bronze, and terrible fire broke from the gear that wrapped his body, 2 spears in his fists. No one could fight him, stop him, none but the gods, as Hector hurled through the gates, his eyes flashing fire. And whirling round, he cried to his Trojans, shouting through the ruck, "The wall! Storm the wall!" They rushed to obey him, some swarming over the top at once, others streaming in through the sturdy gateways, Argives scattering back in terror, back by the hollow halls, the uproar rising, no way out, no end.